Previously on Third and Roll.
I am worried that we are witnessing in real time the collapse of this Toronto Argonauts season. And Bruce Clark is there to say, hello, Marler, stop talking about things that happened in Montreal discotheques. Norman, what is Hamilton doing here that is giving fits to our Toronto Argonauts?
Crunching of bones and giant 1980s style shoulder pads.
It is an age of Canadian football domination. In the West, the Edmonton Eskimos are a dynasty without equal. Behind the quarterback tandem of Tom Wilkinson and Warren Moon, the Eskimos won 5 consecutive Grey Cup championships between 1978 and 1982. In the East, 4 teams battle it out through a 6-game season to see who will meet Edmonton in the championship game. The Toronto Argonauts have not hoisted a Grey Cup since 1952. Will this be their year? Let's find out. This is Third and Roll.
Welcome to Third and Roll, a Canadian football board game podcast. This is the podcast where we play the 1985 board game Canadian Armchair Football and role play a broadcast of a Toronto Argonauts game. This is episode 20. We are halfway through the final game of the regular season. Hamilton up 7-1, looking to seal first place in the East Division. We are getting ready for halftime now, so let's throw it into the studio for Ron Booman and Brett Brannigan. Ron, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ron Booman. Welcome to the Canadian Armchair Football Podcast Halftime Show. As we have completed one half of spirited debate on the green rectangle, both teams stuck to their talking points, no killer blows were delivered, and we take a pause from conducting the nation's business to consult with our in-house correspondent, Mr. Brett Brannigan.
Ron, would it surprise you to know that I am still sad and still scared? I do not like what is happening to this 1980 season for the Argos. I thought, looking back, when I tell my kids about this year, that 1980 was going to be the turnaround for the Toronto Argonauts. The year that everything changed, that we started moving in the right direction and started winning games and hosting playoff games, and I'm at a loss. I think something has to significantly change with the play calling on Willie Wood. I think this is all on him. He cannot blame the players. They are becoming way too predictable with the plays they are calling. They need to get a little bit more random, and I've been sending messages down to Willie Wood. I hope he listens to it, and I think we're going to see, hopefully, a much more innovative offense for the Argonauts heading into the second half. Ron, back to you.
Well, thank you, Brett. You're always on message and always with a new message for our listeners. Ron Booman here. I'm getting a feed into my ear here that in the other Parliament of Canadian football, we have the Montreal Alouettes scoring 5 points and the Ottawa Rough Riders scoring 6 points. And I'm being told that this is, in fact, a game of Canadian football, and the score is 6-5. Yes, indeed. We now return to the booth for the on-field commentary as we resume our beloved Canadian game. Here we go.
Well, Ron, thank you very much for that. We have the players coming out onto the field. Just like Brett mentioned, at halftime, Willie Wood did indicate that he will be taking a different approach to calling the plays, and hopefully we will see that come into fruition. Luckily, we won't have to wait too long to see if the results of this experiment. He says that he is going to go almost effectively random in terms of the plays that he is calling. He has his first 14 plays already mapped out in his head. He will be calling those plays no matter what is happening on the field. Let's go see how that works out. We've got Bernie Ruoff coming on for the kickoff.
Well, here as we go into the second half of the final game of the regular season, I mean, this is almost, you can feel that it's almost playoffs already. This is the playoff feeling right here. I mean, Argos could win first round bye here. This is like winning your first playoff game without even playing it. And in this atmosphere of playoff football, it's the whole season disappears and it's just win this game at all costs and that's it. So with that spirit, we are seeing an unprecedented experiment being conducted by the Argos here. Total randomness. I don't know what to make of it. I've never seen anything like it, but it's certainly bound to shake things up here.
You know, I used to think that the universe is a random, chaotic sequence of meaningless events. But I see now that there is reason and purpose to all things.
So we have Bernie Ruoff on for the kickoff from his 45-yard line. Hamilton chose to receive the ball to start off the game, and Ruoff with a 50-yard kick. A 50-yard kick, so that will bring the ball down to the Argos 15-yard line. Argos able to pick up 25 yards there on the return. So it's going to be
first down, Toronto,
from their own 35-yard line.
This is James Franklin, quarterback for the Toronto Argonauts, and you're listening to Third and Roll.
So we have Mark Jackson. He's got a little sheet of paper in front of him. Those are the next 14 plays that will be called.
What is this?
A battle plan.
Jackson hands it off to Metcalf. And Metcalf picks up 3 yards on the play, so that is going to be a 2nd and 7 now for the Argos. Jackson going right back to Metcalf. This is a reverse. And Metcalf picks up 10. So already things are moving in the right direction for the Argos. Jackson going back to that screen pass that they love so much. And it's complete to Metcalf. Metcalf picks up 5. And then an additional 5 after the catch. So that is a first down, Argos. They are now on to the Hamilton side of the field. So it will be 1st and 10 Toronto from the Hamilton 53-yard line.
What-ho there, listener. Edward Welch here. Thank you for returning to my parlor. Please, have a seat. We were talking about Eton. The year was 1948. I was in my 3rd year at Eton College, and I desperately wanted to get on to the rugby team. I had been dying to kick penalties since I was a wee lad. Now, this being an audio format, you may not know that when I was a young man, I was extremely tall and incredibly thin. And when I showed up onto that rugby pitch, the coach took one look at me and he said, "Nah, go to the doctor." I could not believe it. I didn't even get a chance to kick the ball. So when I walked into this doctor's office, he looked me up and down and he said, "Edward, stick up your left arm, take your right hand and grasp it around your left wrist. Can you touch your thumb to your pinky?" And I could. And he said, "Edward, you have Marfan syndrome, and you have no place on the rugby field. You have a degenerative connective tissue disorder, and you would not survive contact." I said it was an insurance issue, which I didn't really understand at the time. So I walked away. I never played 1 minute of rugby at Eton, but I practiced. I kicked so many balls. I did so many sprints, so many squats. If my connective tissue was weak, I would build the sinewy muscle around it to hold it together or to get hit. I did it all, but I had this giant M tattooed on my forehead from Marfan. If I were going to get an opportunity to kick a ball through an upright, it wouldn't be here. It wouldn't be at Eton.
Jackson doesn't have to wait very long at all in between the plays because he already knows what he's going to call next, and then the answer is a short pass. So Jackson dumping it off short, and that ball is complete to Metcalf. Argo's getting into a rhythm here.
It's what I'm talking about.
So they pick up 5 through the air and additional 8 on the ground. So that is a 13-yard pickup there for the Argos.
Hamilton seems confused here by the Argos play calling. They just don't know what to expect next.
If we really want to do this, we got to get in his head.
So Jackson looks as though it's going to be reverse. Apologies, it's a fake reverse. And Metcalf finds an opening, and that is a 25-yard run there for the Argos, and they are deep in Hamilton territory, 1st and 10 from the Hamilton 14-yard line.
Classic rando.
Jackson going right back to Metcalf. This is an off right tackle now. Metcalf picks up 7, so the Argos are marching down the field, 2nd and 3 now. So Jackson is 2nd and 3, handing it off to Metcalf, running right up the middle. And no gain there on the play.
They really put together a good string of runs there. I mean, until that play, they were just marching down the field, and this is all with random play calls. You can see Willie Wood was starting to look almost a little bit sheepish. He's thinking, well, hey, if they can go do this well on with random play calls, what do they need me for?
So Argos with their first roadblock, but wait a minute.
There's a flag on the play.
There's a flag on the play there.
The ruling on the field is offensive roughing and unsportsmanlike conduct on the offense. Those are 2 major 15 yards penalties each. It's going to be 2nd down Toronto, but the ball will be moved back 30 yards.
Wow, well, it looks like there was some words there where the Argos really thought they had cracked this game wide open in terms of what they needed to do, and they were making sure that Hamilton knew exactly what they thought and did so in a way that was unbecoming of a gentleman.
Well, maybe this is what happens when you release the chaos. They go for pure randomness, unleashing the demons of hell, pure chaos onto the field, and got a little bit out of control there.
So this is going to bring up a 2nd and 33 from the Hamilton, is that the 37-yard line?
This may be our longest down distance we've had so far.
We unfortunately have had too many of these 30-yard penalties on a play, so it possibly might have one longer than this. But so we have the Argos. They are not going to change from their plan. They are going for a pitch out to Metcalf.
Well, I'm shocked by the run play call here.
So random.
And Metcalf picks up 7. So 7 yards for Metcalf on the play. That's going to bring up 3rd down. The ball is now at the 30-yard line.
Does get them into good field goal range, though. Sometimes randomness is just what you need.
So coming out on to kick the field goal.
Zenon and Rishishin.
Kicking, they're going to snap the ball from the 30-yard line, so this will be a 37-yard field goal. And the kick is up, and it's good! It's good, so there we have it. The Argos, Zenon has broken that streak of missed field goals that ends after 3, and so with that, it is going to be 7-4. Hamilton, Argos back to within a field goal with 8 minutes to go in the first quarter. Really dominating the time of possession in the second half. Well done, Argos.
You're listening to Third and Roll. Can I say the same thing but in Tamil? நீங்கள் கேட்டுக்கொண்டிருப்பது Third and Roll.
And we are back. Zenon is on for the kickoff. And Zenon with a 55-yard kick. That's going to bring the ball down to the Hamilton 10-yard line. Hamilton on the return. They are able to pick up 20. So they will be taking over 1st and 10 Hamilton from their own 30-yard line. So we've got Marler handing it off to Crawford, going for an end run. And Crawford gets a 25-yard run of his own. So that's going to be a 1st down Hamilton from the 54-yard line. Apologies. They are on, Norman. They're on the big C. They are on the center line, right at midfield.
The universe is in balance.
Marler keeping the ball in his hands, going for a pass from option now. And that pass is complete to Clarkson for 10 yards. And Clarkson picks up an additional 5 after the catch. So that is a 15-yard pickup. Hamilton really not dissuaded by the Argos' change in strategy, and they are just marching the ball down the field here. Marler going for a screen pass now, and that ball is incomplete. Incomplete. Clark was able to disrupt that passing attempt. He did not fall for that screen whatsoever. That's going to bring up a 2nd and 10. Hamilton from the Argos 40-yard line. Marler is looking for the big one. He's looking for Clark down the left-hand sideline, 25 yards downfield, and that ball is intercepted. Preston Young with another one of his trademark turnovers. What a season he is having. The fine young man from Regina, Saskatchewan. He is having a great season, folks, both in kick returns and on defense. And he is able to pick up 5 on the interception return, so the Argos will take over at their own 20-yard line.
Big turn of events. So Marler really seemed on tilt. After that first down incompletion, he was cursing in some colorful Mississippi language, and he seemed to be bent out of shape, and then he just missed his timing on that deep throw.
Greetings from the desk of Dr. Footius Ballonicus. Among the list of insults bequeathed to us by the bard William Shakespeare, we may add football player. As we witness in King Lear, Act 1, Scene 4, Oswald, a servant of Goneril, approaches the king respectfully as "my lady's father," to which the king retorts, "My lady's father, my lord's knave, your horse and dog, you slave, you cur." Oswald says, "I am none of these, my lord. I beseech your pardon." King Lear says, "Do you bandy looks with me, you rascal?" and strikes him. Oswald says defiantly, "I'll not be struck, my lord." At which point the courtier Kent, a nobleman loyal to King Lear, adds, "Nor tripped neither, you base football player," and trips him. For which the king says, "I thank thee, fellow. Thou servest me, and I'll love thee."
So, down by just a field goal, down 7-4, the Argos will take over at their 20-yard line. The Argos onto the field looking to tie this game up or take the lead on this drive. Willie Wood is referring back to where he was the last time so he can make sure he is continuing to complete his 14 plays as initially drawn up. So we have Jackson going for a long pass here, and that ball is incomplete. So he was trying to really go for it there, but he was unsuccessful on that play.
Wow, that was a deep pass. He was really looking for it all on that one.
So Jackson, Willie Wood is having some second thoughts about maintaining this strategy on a 2nd and 10. But, folks, he has thrown his clipboard to the ground. He is saying, "I'm the coach. I get to call the plays. If I'm going to get fired, it's for making decisions that I myself made.
I'm a big boy today."
And it is going to be, he's going to attempt a long run. They are going for a fake reverse, and that ball is out. That ball is out. It is a fumble on the play. But luckily, it was recovered by the Argos. But still, very ugly there. I see Willie Wood very nervously glancing up at the owner's box.
"So row well and live."
He's got a sheepish look on his face. This is going to bring up
3rd down
with 4 minutes remaining. So with 3rd and 15 to go, the Argos at their own 15-yard line.
Zenon is coming onto the field for another punt. Far too many punts in this game for his liking or mine. So Zenon with a real cannon of a leg. That is a 55-yard punt. Hamilton will recover the ball at their own 40-yard line. And they have pick up an additional 5. But folks,
there's a flag on the play.
There is a flag on the play. Let's go down to the officiating crew.
The ruling on the field is blocking from the rear, clipping. That is a major penalty on the returning team. It will be first down Hamilton, but the ball will be placed back 15 yards.
That is the third time this game the officials have called clipping. I mean, they really seem to be trying to teach a lesson here. You got to block in the correct direction.
Back and to the left. Back and to the left.
I don't know. What do you think about this rule, Edward? I mean, is it important to not clip? I mean, really, what's this all about?
You know me, Norman. I've had too many friends who were football players that player safety is extremely important to me. And honestly, if in the rules of sportsmanship, I think if you're going to hit somebody, they should have the opportunity to defend themselves. And so you should come at them head on, or at least from the side, so that they can see it coming and attempt to hit you back before you hit them.
Well said, Edward. Always fighting with honor.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Norman, what do you say we open up the old third and roll mailbag?
Let's do it.
Any letters to post?
Letters, what letters? A message was dispatched.
We'll start with your correspondence.
I know all about the letters.
Read your letters.
My letters! Give me that!
Oh, he wrote letters. Any fool can write letters.
This letter begins, Dear Edward, I'd never heard of your show before, but my agent told me about it and I felt compelled to write in. Oh, well, didn't need to mention that part. On episode 7, Just a Mississippi Boy, you interviewed Dave Marler about why Bruce Clark signed with the Toronto Argonauts instead of the Green Bay Packers. Now, full disclosure, I know Bruce Clark, and I don't like Bruce Clark. Yes, we are brothers of the line, the defensive line. We hold together and we hold strong, but we were rivals. In 1978, I was drafted to the NFL by the Green Bay Packers as a defensive tackle. 11th round, 248th overall. I was jubilant, then despondent. I couldn't get on the field. 1978, practice roster. 1979, practice roster. I swore 1980 was going to be my year. Then, disaster. Bruce Clark is drafted by the Packers. First round, 4th overall. My hopes were dashed. I couldn't compete against this behemoth, but then John Mayer, the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, was insisting that Clark play as a defensive tackle. My position. Bruce hated this. He'd always played on the outside as a defensive end, and he didn't want to play inside. Bruce would run off statistics about how defensive tackles had shorter careers than defensive ends. I don't know where he picked that stuff up. From what I hear from your show, maybe it was his Canadian girlfriend. It was a straight-up power struggle between Clark and Meyer, and neither man would yield. So Clark said, so long, found a job in the same town as his girlfriend and her kids, and made a pretty good life for himself. I hear the Argos are letting him play defensive end. I'm happy for Bruce, and happy that him skedaddling meant that I finally got on the field for the green and gold. I don't know about this tax evasion business. Marler should zip it on that front. But I do know that Bruce Clark lives on the edge and belongs on the end of that line. Signed, Terry Jones. No, not that Terry Jones. Defensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers. Wow. So Norman, we're getting a little bit of extra context here. It seems as though it was not only a somewhat dubious tax situation that led Clark to come and stay in Canada, but perhaps Green Bay would not let him play at his preferred position, and he chose to come up here to Canada and play for our Toronto Argonauts. And I gotta say, bless him, John Mayer, if the Argos win a Grey Cup this year, we gotta send you a ring, because Bruce Clark has been so important to this team this year. Thank you for your service to the Double Blue, John Mayer.
First down, Hamilton.
They are leading 7-4 from their own 30-yard line. They are going for a run from option here. And they pick up 4 yards on the play. So Bruce Clark in there for the stop. That's going to bring up 2nd and 6. And Crawford again with the ball. That is a fake reverse, and he picks up 20. So that is a first down, Hamilton. Goodness. Hamilton deciding on the next play. Marler wants to keep the ball in his hands. It's a pass from option.
And Marler is cursing once again.
And that ball is incomplete. It looks as though Bruce Clark got a hand on it as it was coming out of Marler's hand. Really disrupted the throwing motion there, and that ball sailed out of bounds. So this is going to bring up 2nd and 10 now. And Marler, and that is another incomplete pass. So that's going to bring up 3rd down. Hamilton stuck there on that center line, and the universe, from an Argos perspective, is back into balance.
But it's not in balance in Marler's head. You can almost see steam coming out of his ears. I mean, this is a real problem for this quarterback. He is becoming angry. He is agitated. He is on tilt. He is not able to make his reads when he's just fired up with fury like that, and not in a good way.
So, with the final seconds ticking down in the third quarter, Hamilton, Bernie Ruoff is on for the punt. And finally, a decent punt from Bernie Ruoff. That was a 50-yard punt. The Argos getting the ball at their own 5-yard line. Argos have really been pinned deep in their own zone this game. Quite a contrast to last week's game against the Ottawa Rough Riders. And on the return, the Argos are able to pick up 2 yards. Disappointing there. This is going to be a long field ahead for the Argos.
In a game of field position, the Argos just seem to keep having to claw their way uphill. It's always starting with their backs against the wall.
So, heading into the final quarter of play, the Argos, they still have a shot. They are down by 3 points. There will be many possessions to go in the game, but the Argos have a chance here, but they have a long, long field ahead of them. So when we come back, we will have the fourth and final quarter of the final game of the 1980 regular season.
Next time on Third and Roll.
You know, if this was Dave Marler, he'd probably go for one of his ill-timed quarterback sneaks like he did during the Labor Day game.
An incredible roller coaster of a drive right there.
Oh no.
So close.
Third and Roll is an independent Canadian football board game podcast recorded in Toronto, Ontario in 2020. Today's episode features the voices of Spencer, Alex, and Subi.
This works for me.
Thanks, Subi. This episode was edited by
Spencer Adams from Toronto.
Our cover art was illustrated by Bryce Hall. If you'd like to support the show, please tell a friend or leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcatcher you use. You can reach us on Twitter at Third and Roll or by email at thirdandroll, all one word, @gmail.com. Our theme music is Magic Mountain by Jazzar, used through a Creative Commons Attribution license at freemusicarchive.org. New episodes every Wednesday. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Third and Roll.
I'm not an afterthought, Spencer, but I'll move on.